Oh. Let's see. I'll just read off from the participant list here. So Daniel Spicer.
Chair, yes, here.
Eric Nyland.
Here.
Mark
Your volume's going in and out a little bit.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm not sure. Maybe it's just the internet connection here. So Mark.
Here.
Michael Gore.
Here.
Pete Driscoll.
Here.
And Jim Barr.
Here.
So before we got started, I thought it would be nice just for Valerie to say hi to everyone, give a little bit of an intro since this is your first time you guys meeting her. We're excited to have her on board as the new Bolton Town Planner. So Valerie, if you just want to give a little intro.
Sure. Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm very excited to be here tonight. I'm coming to you directly from Wellesley, but prior to that, I was the assistant planner for the town of Stowe for about four and a half years. So it's been a really wonderful introduction to Bolton this past 2 weeks. It's been a very warm welcome. It's been great to see some familiar faces, both around town and of course with some applicants and engineers as well. So I'm just very excited to be in Bolton, particularly, coming in at during a master planning process. I think is going to be a really interesting, if not intense way to be introduced to the town. So I'm looking forward to learning a lot more about your land use goals through that process. So excited to be here.
Great, thanks, Valerie. We're excited to have you with us. All right, so if you wouldn't mind, would you be able to share your screen with the agenda?
Sure. Let me see if I can get this to work.
If not, I can grab it and share it. I'm just gonna open it. Oh, there we go. Yes. All right, so first up, Bruce Wheeler for Habitat Communities, the concept development plan for parcel 6B3. You're gonna present a concept plan for mixed use development until the Tadmore Square. So actually, it probably makes more sense now if you want to share that plan. And Bruce, if you want to go, once we get it up, you can go ahead and, there we go, perfect.
All right, so Greg, if it is a little confusing, I'm gonna, I'll do a sort of a introduction here with regard to the plan and what we've, where we've been so far, and Greg's going to move the cursor. We'll see how well we do at the same time. So this is our, we're very early in the process. This is our third meeting. We had a mini meeting with Erica and Danielle and Eric, and then we met with the Master Planning Committee a couple of weeks ago. And shared the plan with them, and had a discussion with Erica about meeting with the whole planning board and sharing the concept and getting some feedback. So it's real early, so you're looking at the commercially zoned portion of the Tadmore site. And you can see the at the top of the screen, the DPW building. We're on the bottom part of the screen. We see the side of the Tadmore 11 lot subdivision that's moving along. We're very pleased with how that's going. We've had a ton of activity there, and a lot of interest. Everything is sold there except for 3 homes. So we're really pleased with the way that's going. And we're right at the intersection of 117 Forbush and Green Road. So there's 3 or 4 components. There's really 4 components to this site. In the front, we have the Dunkin Donuts restaurant type building. Greg's going to move his cursor there.
I don't have control of the screen. I think it's
Oh,
Valerie's.
you don't.
It's,
Okay.
yep.
Sorry.
I thought you did. Okay. All right. So if you go, yeah, there we go. There's our Dunkin Donuts, and we're showing it as a drive-through. We're aware this is about a 2,000 square foot restaurant type standalone Dunkin Donuts building. We're showing this as a drive-through, and we are aware that this is not currently an allowable use in Bolton. We wanted to show it anyway because we're seeing a lot of towns changing their approach with regard to drive-through. So it's not something that we feel super strongly about. We think it's just with the way things have evolved with COVID, it's become it's become really functional in a lot of areas, and just wanted to show it on the plan to get feedback from people. Just above the Dunkin Donuts is the parking area for that building, and then further just above that we have a common area which is a green space with a gazebo, and we're gonna provide a lot of landscaping there. We think it's great to be visible from 117 and from the high school to so the people are aware of it, and so that they can be drawn to that space and using the space. And we'll have a very elaborate, robust, detailed plan of it, of some sitting areas and inside landscaping within the common. Just behind the common, we have a 38 unit active adult building. We don't have the elevations yet from the architect. It's going to be a 2.5 story building, and the architectural style is going to be drawn on historic Bolton, taking some of the features from the library and a lot of the town center buildings. I think that there's great stuff that the architect has identified to pull into the design. So we're real excited about putting that together. And in the next 2 to 3 weeks, I should have a plan, an elevation and perspective of the building to share with people. There's parking underneath the building, and we have access both from 117 and from Forbush Mill Road. And you can see there's sort of a landscape turnaround area in the back of the building. If we bring a cursor to the very back there, behind the building, and that's the turnaround area. And then we drive, so the parking is underneath the building. So there's a gradual grade change as we go from front to back, from away from 117 on the parcel, that enables us to drive in to the rear of the building underneath the building. On the first floor of the building, in the very front section facing the common, we have 5,200 square feet of retail space. I think that that will work well with the Commons and the Dunkins together. And then in front of sort of the courtyard area of the active adult building, we have another green space as well. And the entrance to the active adult building is kind of in that inside the courtyard in that front area. And there's some visitor parking right just to the side there. So that's sort of the overview. We have we're going to have a community water supply for the site and in-ground septic system as well. Greg, do you have some things you'd like to add?
Yeah, thanks, Bruce. Evening, everybody. Greg Roy with Dillson Roy, and I think gave a pretty good overview, but just a things from to take off where Bruce left off. The site would be serviced, as he referenced, with a public water supply system. So we have 2 proposed wells in the back of the site that would have associated zone 1 radiuses and IWPA radii. And we've planned. We've really been planning for those even before this concept was developed. Even while we were doing the layout for the residential 11-unit residential project a number of years ago. So those have sort of been in the pipeline, because we knew that whatever use we'd be putting on this property, commercially zoned property, would certainly require a public water supply well. As Bruce said, it would be an on-site septic system, less than 10,000 gallons a day. So we would be permitting this at the local level under Title V regulations. And then just a little bit about traffic flow. We are showing 2 entrances, exit entrances off of 117, which would service primarily, we think, the retail and coffee shop spaces, but would also provide access and connection to, for the residents. Earlier iterations of this plan, we actually did not include an access to Forbush Mill, but as we were thinking about that more, and I think working with a subset of this group, we realized that to provide a dedicated entrance or an entrance that would be the intention of which would be dedicated more towards the use of just the residents, so the residents wouldn't have to be driving in through a commercial, into the commercial front portion of the site. It would have a dedicated entrance, would, as Bruce said, direct connection to the underground parking area, which we envision being sort of the primary space. If people are going to the grocery store, they're gonna take their car in the winter. They're gonna take their car that's in the covered parking and go to the grocery store, come back, and then hop up back to their unit. So I think the other thing to say is, and Bruce, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're intending these to be condo, so for sale type units.
Yes.
So
the intention, they're going to be for sale units, 2-bedroom units, and I just wanted to mention, it is a good time to just mention how we got here. When we first came in with the 11 lot Padmore subdivision to the planning board, there was questions about, well, what are your intentions with the commercial site? And I had originally thought that we may do an affordable housing development, a 40B there, and the feedback that I received was that the town really wasn't interested in that type of development in this particular location. And I said, okay, well, I'll focus on the bylaw and see what we can do and what makes sense with the bylaw. And a lot of what you can do with the bylaw doesn't work great now that we've had this sort of COVID shift in things, and so a lot of the commercial and retail type of things. When we still have a retail component, we have a Dunkin Donuts, but to fully develop the site under the bylaw is now quite difficult. But we're seeing massive demand for active adult flats, properties, homes, condominiums, particularly in town center areas. This is a really, really attractive product that's in high demand right now, and in this location to me seems like a historic Bolton, a building designed with historic Bolton architectural features, and having active adults living in a central location in Bolton to me seems like a great fit for the site. And so that's what's brought me here. It doesn't comply to your zoning bylaw, but what we're interested in doing and discussing with you is us creating a zoning overlay district, and we would draft that and share that with you maybe in a couple of weeks, or at at a meeting not far from now, so we could see what that bylaw would look like, and how it might work. And it's just starting point, and then talk through the nuts and bolts of it and see what really the best structure of it. But I think that this general product is, to me, in my opinion, is a great match for this particular location. So I kind of jumped in on your communication, Greg. So I just wanted to get that out, but you can continue.
That's fine. That's fine. I was pretty much done anyway. I was going to end with with what Bruce just said, was that we know that we need we know that the underlying zoning does not work, and so that we know that this concept would require some zoning relief, certainly on residential density, and some of the other things as well, but that's probably the most notable.
Can I jump in here for a minute? Actually, I mean, you're talking about drafting a bylaw, but I mean, we have the village overlay, which is basically this. I mean, it doesn't cover this area, but it would be hard to add this area into the village overlay. I mean, but we left it pretty general in terms of housing density and retail density. We have a coverage of the area, which I think is 25%. That's a footprint of the entire acreage of, a combination of retail and residential. And then also we have the maximum paved area, which is still 50%, I believe. But I believe for the most part that this basically fits what we were doing in the village overlay. I'd have to look and double check on the density and max units per building, but I think we left it pretty general so we can leave it up to developers to come up with something innovative. And I think that with the lack of housing diversity we have in Bolton, and it would be great to have more businesses in town. I think this is like a great, approach.
All right, we'll take a close look at that, Eric. And you had brought that up. I know you brought it up when we met maybe 4, 5, 6 weeks ago, and I've been meaning to go back to that and take a close look at the village overlay and see how we fit into that. So I will do that in the next week, and I really should have done it prior to meeting with you guys, but we'll definitely do it in the next week.
I mean, definitely the intent of the village overlay was this, type of development. And we tried to make the terms generic enough that we could fit many different types of things into it. Even to the point of, I think when we talked about residential to business ratio, we just kind of said roughly like balanced. That's kind of what we said. I mean, we didn't really use any specific terms, so we can leave it up to developers to come with a good plan.
Great. I think that simplifies things massively, and is much better than us doing a new overlay. So I'll look into that closely, and hopefully we can expand that, and we'll figure out what things, if any, would need to be revised either on our plan or in the bylaw to make this work.
And then, of course, the other big issue is, technically we don't allow fast food as a primary.
Okay.
We don't allow it as a primary, but we do allow it as an accessory. So I know you were talking about a convenience store. So it would be easier to get a Dunkin Donuts in a convenience store, but I think we prefer a type of restaurant, versus a convenience store. I think that's what Danielle and I were talking about. But I think you could play with that in that, for instance, Panera versus Dunkin Donuts, because Panera is like a sit down. Yeah, more of a sit down type place. And I think like 5 to 10 years ago, I was talking to a Dunkin Donuts salesperson or executive, and they said that they did have some Dunkin Donuts because of this type of bylaw that do have a primary sit down, kind of like a Panera type feel.
Yeah, that's what this would be. This would be this has seating. This has a seating inside restaurant style unit building, and we've had extensive conversations with Dunkin, and they're very interested. They have an engagement letter that they put together and have given me, and they feel like this is a vibrant site for them. So I know that would work. And we looked at a whole bunch of different things before we started putting the plan together, and looked at the possibility of doing a convenience store or mini grocery. We were getting feedback that would be really fill a need within Bolton, but we really couldn't do it without tobacco, and then we're too close to the school. We're within 500 feet, so that kind of that made the convenience center more complicated. But the Dunkins, so if you guys like the Dunkins, they're interested, they want to do it, and I think it would work in the space as a restaurant style building.
I think your point about and Danielle, stop me if you want to take over, but I think your point about the drive-through is a pretty good one too. And for a few years I've been thinking that we should have potentially add as like a bonus to the using the village overlay, a drive-through option in that overlay. I don't know how that would fly with the town, but I mean, I know, for parents with kids that don't want to get out of the car, and also now with the whole, who knows when Corona is officially going away, but it seems like we're living with it for a while. I mean, I think people have changed their lifestyle a little bit and are more apt to prefer a drive-through.
Yeah, I think when we talked 6 weeks ago, that was kind of the consensus is, I think there's been a drastic change. At least from majority of people, that I've talked to and everything that, that convenience of not having to go in, especially during a pandemic or something like that is very helpful. And then, put the pandemic aside, like you just said, parents with young kids, a drive-through is actually a blessing. So I think there are some positive aspects to it, but it is something that would have to, get approval. But something that we could look forward to. But I think there's been a little bit of a shift potentially to look at that. The one thing I don't know though is, I mean, Eric, you brought up a good point of, the fact that we don't allow fast food as a standalone, how to kind of get around that one.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to make it so it's I think I don't know what the exact definition is, but a major portion would have to be a sit-down portion,
Okay.
Well, and it's an accessory use, right? I mean, I don't know how it's defined. I don't have the bylaw in front of me, but accessory use, I would imagine, to the parcel, correct? So in a mixed,
I don't know if you could say
It gets
it's
tricky,
it's an accessory use to an active adult.
right?
That,
okay.
I'd have to go look to see how it was
Yeah.
worded in the village overlay. I
Yeah.
don't remember. I don't remember if we addressed this or not in the village overlay.
Yeah. Yeah, I know I remember, I haven't looked at it in a while, but I remember looking at it and it's a little hard to work through. But at any rate, there's certainly some things that will need review for sure. And perhaps some change or some relief of some fashion.
Yeah, so I think, maybe the first thing is to look at that village overlay, see what does comply, and then
Right.
maybe what is still left out there that doesn't comply, and we can kind of reassess there. But I'll, just reiterate what, Eric was saying, and then I'll let other board members chime in here. I like the mixed use at this location. I think it is a good use of this parcel. It's zone business or limited business, and it would be, I think, advantageous, and I like how it's kind of set up. So I think there are a lot of positive aspects to it. When you get into final design, there'll be some of those, tweaks and nuances that we'll want to look at. But I like the overall intent of it, and kind of bringing those two, that really mixed use together, is good. But if there are other board members that want to kind of comment or make suggestions.
Greg, I just had one question. Where is the road to Tadmore subdivision in relation to that property line?
A great question. I'm going to say about 400 feet-ish towards the center of town. 400 or 500 feet, maybe.
Okay, so it's not right at the edge there.
No, those lots are, those lots are probably, between 350 and 450, I'm guessing, 400 roughly.
Okay,
from that
yeah,
property
it'd be
line.
helpful just to see kind of the perspective of the distance on that. One other comment, I also love the mixed use approach. I mean, my main concern with it would be that the Main Street Green Road Forbush intersection is kind of a death trap as it is. And now we're talking about adding potentially a lot more cars into that intersection. I don't know if the master planning committee is looking at that intersection, or, I've heard proposals in the past for trying to align it or straighten it out. I don't know how it plays in if we get a new high school, kind of if that intersection changes at all. But that would be my concern with this area.
So Michael, I had a conversation with the DPW director, and they put out a study on the intersection, and so they don't know whether they're going to do a rotary or a light. They're gonna do a study, but and they filed for a grant for the study. But I am interested in entering into a public-private partnership and taking a role, a financial role, and possibly a construction role in that intersection. I think that as a second sort of center area in the town, um, uh, uh, revising revising that intersection would be really great. And you know, as part of this, um, we're interested in a partnership with the intersection.
Great.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up. I know we talked about that with Erica, and I know that things are in the works at that, priority intersection. And I'm not sure how the two egresses onto that road would work towards that, but I would think that you would want the whole area to be studied, whether one or two exits work. The other thing I was thinking is, have you talked to Frank Chiodo, who owns the property across the street, Bruce?
I have not. Which property across the street?
So he owns Dagnall
Package
Liquors,
store.
yeah, the package store and the open space. But he owns, it's like a triangle that goes right down. Yeah, basically what you can see on there. He owns right down to the corner, and
Yeah.
he's been looking to potentially develop that area too. So, in saying this, a couple of things. First of all, I mean, this would be great to have this like business kind of district, with this intersection fixed, and if something could go across the street, it would be awesome to have this whole area. And then,
I'll give him a call. I mean, I'd be really interested. I mean, if we could expand this concept, or have other complementary uses
exactly.
to make this more. I don't mean really expand this concept, but have
Yeah.
other complementary uses that really define this uh, as a robust, vibrant town center area. I would love to be part of that. So I'll call Frank, and
Do you have his contact?
I don't know.
I have it. I can get it in touch.
Okay.
All right, great.
Yeah, I think, and just like you were saying, if it's complementary businesses, and see what he was thinking. I mean, you have the pizza place there as well, and a little bit further down, you have the post office, and I think there's like some other shops over there. So this whole area, if it's redeveloped, it could be great. And then you have the traffic of the kids coming out of school. There's some set business there. So it'd be great. Yeah,
I agree. I'd love to be part of that, and I'll call Frank and find out what his thoughts are.
Hi, Bruce.
Yes.
Hi. I'm not totally sold on the Dunkin Donuts, only because we would have two Dunkin Donuts within a mile of each other, and then you have the Bolton Bean. I think that we have to consider as well, in terms of usage. I love the fact that being able to develop this area and doing it. I'm just not 100% sold on another Dunkin Donuts within a mile of each other.
Yeah.
So that's.
Well, so we're not committed to the Dunkin Donuts, and to us, it's a concept to see where people are. Dunkin's is interested, and we went out and communicated with a lot of different people, and we ended up having a lot of conversations with Cumberland, and we kind of ruled out the Cumberland Farms because of the tobacco and the proximity to the school. But we've gone through the marketplace, and the people who were really interested were Dunkin's and Cumberland. So I'm open to another type of anchor, as long as it's financially viable and works. I mean, that's the thing to and if you have suggestions of I would look into any of those suggestions. The fallback is if we don't have an anchor, then we could do some our septic, our nitrogen loading. We've kind of designed this to fit into our our nitrogen loading capacity. So if we remove the Dunkins, so we could go with the Dunkins. We could go with another anchor that we haven't identified as of yet, and if people give me feedback, if the feedback I'm getting is that people don't love the Dunkins and they much prefer something else, I'll look into that use and I'll find out if it's viable. The fallback is that we could expand the active adult building in some capacity this doesn't uh, so we could add some number of units. It's not a lot of units, but we could add some number of units if we didn't have that anchor in there. My first choice would be to have something that is servicing the town in some retail type of way in that spot.
Well, one of the things I was just going to say that could be looked at is if it was more of what Eric was mentioning, is a sit-down restaurant that's not a Dunkin's, that doesn't need a drive-through. You kind of, and that's not a chain. You kind of have already eliminated two of the conflicts you have. I don't have a specific recommendation other than what I was thinking was Panera, but or Jim, if I don't know if you want to keep have other suggestions, but that's just one of the top things I was thinking off the top of my head.
I just don't want to hurt any other businesses that are already in the area.
Yeah, well, but Jim, I mean, yeah, I see a point, but also, we're not in the business of a planning board of picking and choosing businesses, and we set the zoning, and then if the business can make it, they can make it. I don't think that a Dunkin Donuts is actually a competitor of Bolton Bean. Bolton Bean is more about it's kind of a different thing,
a different clientele.
Yeah.
All right, fine, but what about Country Cupboard?
I mean, if you look in Hudson, you've got two right on 85, very close to each other, and they both seem to be pretty full, a good chunk of the day.
Yeah, I mean, just saying a mile, I think it's more like 5+ miles. I mean,
no, it's maybe two and a half, I think, probably.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll meet in the middle. So, but I mean, it's up to Dunkin's if they think they can franchise, if they think they have the business too. I mean, they're either side of the highway, so people get off the highway, go one way, and get off the highway, go the other. I mean,
right. Dunkin's loves it. I don't know what the metrics are that they look at, but they really want to do the deal. I kind of push them. They're ready to run forward. They're ready to run forward, and I said, well, geez, I really want to put together an integrated plan. I don't want to do a piecemeal plan, and I explained that to them. So if you guys want to do this, you have to be patient, and it has to fit in. The whole concept has to work together. I'm not, so they understand that, but they're massively interested. They're that's the only thing I can, that's the nice thing about the Dunkins. And yeah, there is I think with anything there's going to be some other issues, and I understand what Jim is saying about some other places, but these coffee shops, it is incredible. I see Starbucks like 3 on the same street, and Dunkin' like in my office is in North Reading, and there's three Dunkin' Donuts in North Reading on Route 28. They all seem to be and there's a Starbucks there. So in North Reading, there's 3 Dunkins and 1 Starbucks. I don't know how it works, frankly. I don't. But they seem to be small enough um, operations, and that's maybe the model. These small operations are a micro local, and they pull from, they cover this one area in the traffic all that runs through it. But I truly don't know how it works. Just as an observation, there seem to be lots of places where there's multiple stores. But I'm open. I want it to work. I want you guys to love it, and I want it to be a concept that you guys think is great. So I'm open, and that's a placeholder, and we can consider other options, and then kind of go from there.
So I
Just-
think.
Just to make sure, just to say, I love the use. I think it'd be good. I just don't want to hurt local business owners. That's all I'm saying.
That's a good point.
So knowing that area, I mean, I think we may end up wanting to put some traffic, some turn restrictions in there. So I'm not sure whether you want to be, have an internal turnaround, next to that drive-through. We may want to make that a right turn only. So you're heading on to 117 East, you can't go west.
Sure, I can see that. I can see that being the case, particularly where we have the intersection there. So
Yeah.
that and we haven't vetted all the traffic. We really haven't vetted the traffic flow issues. We would certainly do that, but I could see where that would make a lot of sense to have that a right only turn there.
Which means you probably need, or you're probably going to want some way internally to get around and back onto 117 West. So whether you have a loop around so they can go out onto Forbush Mill or something like that. I'm just putting it out there. You guys, you're the engineers. You can figure it out.
Yeah, I think eventually we're gonna bring a traffic engineer into the team and have a traffic study done and figure out and confirm that this makes sense and works, or if things have to be tweaked. We just haven't gotten that far
Right.
yet, but that's in the very near future is us bringing a traffic consultant in.
Yeah.
Actually, I have a couple of questions on the housing. So you were full. So first of all, you were saying, I'm trying to think, forget my first one.
We were talking about condominium, 2-bedroom condominium units with one parking spot, one covered parking spot, and then one additional spot.
I remember where I was going. So you keep saying active adult. So is it restricted 55 and
It
older?
would be age restricted, and it would be 55 plus. And what we've been, so we see a lot of demand for, but I guess I do refer to it as an active adult building, but it would be age restricted. It would be 55 plus, and we're seeing it be really a robust, popular product in town center areas, and it's very positive. It's a very positive revenue producer for the town, and we have a financial consultant that is putting together the numbers on that to be part of our information package that we share with everyone. But it really is a strong revenue producer.
Yeah, completely. It's all positive. I mean, you don't have
Very
much going
few-
out at all.
Yeah, very few kids. It's not kid restrict. It's not child restricted.
Right.
There certainly could be children, but the number is really small. And the services are much, the cost of the services are much less um, than the tax revenue. And we'll share specific financial review and the metrics that go with putting all that together with you folks.
Yeah. So the other question I had was affordable. So it sounds like if they're for sale, it would basically just be whatever our inclusionary is, which is basically 1 to 8. So for every 8 units, 1 would be affordable.
That's correct. So we
Yeah.
would adopt your same inclusionary and then so we'd have that percentage of affordable units in the building.
And this is for Valerie. There's a little bit of history with Tadmore that they owe us an inclusionary unit or a fee in lieu of, which would be like 180 grand. So I think we were talking in our other meeting that you potentially might look into moving that inclusionary in this.
That would be my first choice. I mean, for me, that would be the most efficient thing. And it is, once we get far enough, or assuming that we have the 38 units and then we have the 1 to 8 included, and I would want to add an additional unit to cover our what we owe the town for Tadmore. That's what my hope would be. That would be my first choice.
Yeah, I mean, I'd rather have the unit than the money. So
I guess I would just ask logistically how that would work with this still just in kind of a concept phase versus the other that's active construction.
Well, I think that we could tie it to, so right now, after a certain number of units, I have to, in the Tadmore development, after a certain number of units, I would, and I don't recall what it is, I have to either
Prior to the 7th.
Yeah, it's
we're getting there quickly. So so it's a current discussion. We're getting there quite quickly. So we'd have to make the payment in lieu or provide the unit. But I'm wondering if we could shift the restriction to this development, and maybe we do an interim shift where we shift it to the end of Tadmore. If we shifted it to the prior to the last unit of Tadmore, and then potentially shifted it to here once this got further along in the process, that may work.
To essentially have to wait for this to get voted upon, right?
Yeah.
So we'll have to think a little bit more about that timeline with what was previously agreed upon.
I could also bond that we could also similar to what we do with the road bond. I could bond the $180,000, so that could be another mechanism.
yeah, I was just going to say that. I mean, I would be more comfortable with that because I know in other developments we've gotten into trouble with this, pushing it off, and then having like a resident come and say, well, I want to move in, and then we have to push it off more. So I would feel more comfortable with a bond, but I mean, that's getting ahead of ourselves now, I guess.
A bond or lien on the parcel or something.
Yeah.
To guarantee the town has the
the bond would work for me. I could, so we have a relationship, a strong bonding relationship. So we could put together a bond for the money in lieu, so that there's a placeholder and something, and something there, and then we could create the unit here.
Yeah, I think that that would be more amenable. I agree with Eric. I am not in favor of pushing it off to like kind of the last one. We've just had difficulties with that type of scenario. And
Sure.
then pushing it directly to this, where there's no time frame yet, would be,
Agreed. All right.
so.
I do have a question if that's all right.
Go right ahead.
Yeah.
So I think, we are getting a little bit into the weeds here on what this might look like, but I want to just zoom out a little bit
Sure.
and just for my own knowledge, if someone from the board might enlighten me here, how many other active adult or age restricted units do we have in town right now?
Is it just the Regency?
Yeah,
believe
Bolton
so.
Bolton Senior Housing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And then the Regency's over 55, right?
Yes.
Yep.
And
Yep.
that's
Well, the Regency
60.
is 60 units in the Regency, and Bolton Senior Housing, I want to say, was 40-ish,
Yeah, I think that's about right.
something like that. 42. I want to say it's 42 units. It's a long time ago that we did that, but I think it was 42. I can't think of any others.
I think that's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's the 42, Greg? What's that development?
That's the Bolton Senior Housing Project, Bruce, right
okay.
near the,
Yep.
right near the Flatley building.
Yep, I know. Yep.
Those are rentals though, right? Those aren't homes.
Yeah.
Those aren't for sale. Yeah.
I think so, yeah.
I know that Bruce is familiar with the discussion we've been having in Stowe, of course, but it's absolutely true that these age restricted units, there is a demand for them. I think that some towns are concerned with restricting too many housing units in town, just thinking about how demographics might change over time. So I just want to allow the board to think more about what the need might be in Bolton now and then also into the future.
I would say currently, I think there's definitely a need for that active adult community. We're constantly hearing it at, town meeting and just that there's not affordable housing, for getting older. So I would think that this would definitely be a need that we could be addressing. That's at least what I'm hearing. I don't know if others want to chime in.
Yeah, and then so there's not a lot of places where you can create a 1,400 square foot unit with a that has a sort of a common community space inside and in green spaces in a central location. So the product, I think really what it is that it's not built into most of the zoning bylaws in this area. So it really is underutilized because you have to go through a special process. But having 2-bedroom 1,400 square foot units, there's a massive demand for that. And with all in a nice historically designed building with parking in the building, there's a big piece of the population that really wants to live that way now, and that's what we're seeing.
Mike, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I just got. Bruce, do you have a target price for what these units would go for? I mean, I know it doesn't have to be exact, but just in your mind, what are you sort of thinking?
We really haven't done that yet,
Okay.
but and I think that we would just look at. We'll just go. I think we'd go to go. I would do what I can do is a market study of and I'll find the most similar product in the most similar location, and I'll share what those units sell for.
Yeah, that would be helpful.
We're due to do a market study for this. That's part of our development process, and one of the things that we would in the next month be doing But I'll do that, and I think that we'll look at the surrounding communities and we'll eventually find a comp, and all these things need to be extrapolated for plus and minus for different towns, different locations within the town. But that's how we would start with it. We haven't done it yet, but that's how we would start with it.
Okay, great.
Any other questions or comments? I appreciate, Bruce, you coming in and kind of showing this to us and getting our feedback. Anyone else from the board want to?
Yeah, so Greg, so the septic is
Oh, it's
on
the
the
bottom.
on the Tadmore parcel, or is that
No.
on the commercial parcel?
See where it says septic area?
I see there is. I'm wondering where is the actual property line there?
Yeah, no, it, so you see the hatching there, Mark?
Yep.
That's roughly that's the property line there. So the hatching is off the property. That's actually part of the open space that buffers between the commercial and the back of the residential lots. So the rectangle that's just north of the hatching, that kind of overlaps with the circle behind the building is where we're proposing the septic area.
It's all that yellow line is the property,
yeah.
right?
The yellow line is the property line.
Between the two.
Yeah, and then that rectangle that you're just the cursor's right about on the top of that rectangle. Yeah, that you're inside the septic area now with that cursor. So does that answer the question?
Okay. I thought that open space was deeded. It was supposed to be deeded for conservation.
Yeah, it is. So what we are intending to do, and I think we discussed this with the planning board as well. We intend to actually reconfigure that open space so that the physical infrastructure of the wells, the wellheads, would be on this property. So we do more or less like a land swap. We'd reconfigure that open space boundary line so that the wells would be on the property, and then we would protect the rest of the zone 1 radius that ends up overlapping the open space. We protect that with a zone 1 protective radius easement for the control of that, to demonstrate that would be protected in perpetuity with, for public.
And Mark, I think we did, they did reconfigure that property when we did the Tadmore subdivision based on our desire to keep the business parcel contiguous. Eric, is that right?
Yeah. We did. Yeah, I'm just looking at, so we're taking part of the open space from the Tadmore development, and we're now putting the septic on the open space that was part of that phosphate.
No, the septic's on their land.
Yeah, septic's on our land. It's just inside it, Mark, but it definitely would be on our land.
Okay, there's too many lines and it's hard to tell.
Yeah, I get it. But the hatched areas there, that the darker areas shading are the open space areas. Yeah.
Okay.
And that yellow rectangle, yeah, right there, that's the septic. So that's completely contained on the commercial parcel.
Okay.
And again, it's a concept plan. So we certainly have to do the detail and the soil testing and to get that in there. But no, I appreciate the question.
Okay.
Any other additional comments or questions from the board?
No, this is good. It's exciting. It's good to see maybe a potential use for the overlay we did 5 or whatever years ago.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Bruce and Greg, for presenting this. We're gonna go ahead and jump on to the next item unless there's anything else.
Okay, well, thanks for having me on, and I really appreciate your feedback, and we'll continue to keep you in the loop as we communicate with other groups within the town.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank
you, Bruce.
Thank you.
Thanks, Greg.
I think I might have a.
All right, you can stick around. Yes, you don't need to leave. All right, next item, planning board to discuss the final zoning articles, reports, and presentation from the materials. The amended accessory apartment bylaw. I know that town council had some comments on that. Yeah, thank you, Valerie. So if you want to just kind of go through what their comment was.
Sure.
And is it possible just to zoom in just a little bit
Yes.
on that one?
Yes, of course.
Thank you. Awesome, great.
Yeah, so town council didn't have, they had no comments on the outdoor lighting or the temporary signage, but just a few notes on the accessory apartment bylaw. So they wanted to make sure we understood that with the new economic development bill passing in January, towns are now able to pass accessory apartment bylaws by a simple majority if they allow for the size of an accessory apartment to be, I think it says larger than half the floor area of the principal dwelling, or 900 square feet, whichever is smaller. And so if we do this more restrictive size, we would still have to go for the 2/3 majority. And I'm not sure if that is, that's just a simple comment. We might feel that accessory apartments are going to be maybe easier to get passed in Bolton. I know there are other communities in the Commonwealth that it's going to be a lot more difficult. So that's up to the board to decide.
It's really hard to get 2/3 in Bolton. You're going to enjoy our meeting in May.
Good.
But maybe we should think about this because it is much easier to get the simple majority.
I agree.
Yeah, it's pretty simple language to add in there. So we would just say, the size of the accessory apartment is to be limited to, no larger than half the floor, we could say half the aggregate heated floor space, or 900 square feet.
So wait, so 900 square feet is the max?
Yeah.
That's what they're saying. Yeah.
But
It's a little.
But can we change it to half? Because our max is bigger. Right?
Our max is bigger. I think that's what they're saying, is because our max is bigger, we need a 2/3. Whereas if we were to reduce it to be smaller, we would only need a simple majority. I don't know about that. I mean, we had a lot of discussions about this and the size, and I thought we kind of came to a good agreement with this.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
So
it's just that 50%, the majority vote is.
No, I know. It's definitely. My opinion would be, we did our vetting of it. I would leave it as is, and if it doesn't pass, maybe next year we look to reduce it.
That's probably good. I mean, we should put out some little campaign note about it.
I think Valerie, Erica had done some cheat sheets for each of these. So this might be definitely one of those points on the cheat sheet we'd want, but to send out, when it's appropriate, to kind of get it out there so people know what we're proposing. But I would say I think we should leave it.
Yeah.
So we didn't cap the maximum size. We just left it at 1/3.
Yep, we did.
I think we talked about a cap and decided not to go that way.
Yeah, because there's so many different sizes of buildings, and someone, with a lot of land space might want an accessory apartment if it's more than 1/3 that's greater than 900 square feet.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it allows a lot more flexibility. A lot more creativity on the side of the owner as well, and what they want to design. So that's great. And if just moving on, I believe these comments are also in reference to the same to the same idea as before. For the second one, this next one though, so the detached apartment cannot be held in or transferred into a separate ownership from the principal residence under a condominium form of ownership. So Brian here is saying that there is precedent to not be able to essentially dictate ownership levels. So I think here he's saying we should perhaps just take out item B, so that we're not saying that this this cannot be a condo.
So, I mean, for it to be a condo, it's basically just saying there's like some type of management fee or something, or it's not a separate owner. Is that what we were getting at, Danielle? I mean, I don't think this was one of our major points.
It wasn't. I'm just trying to think of the.
But the selectmen brought it up as a concern though, didn't they?
They did. And so I think it probably makes sense to remove it. I'm just trying to think of if there's any reasoning we would
They
have.
brought it up as a concern though, that they didn't want people trying to turn it into a condo, I think.
Yeah, but
Part of
I think what the case law is saying is that whether they like it or not, if we allow accessory apartments, somebody could sell it and create a condo out of it.
Right. And so at that point, how do you define the principal dwelling? I think apparently that gets a little bit more murky if, how would an applicant be able to maintain, the primary residence and an accessory dwelling if the accessory dwelling is a condo?
I mean, can you have two separate owners on one lot? Is that even possible?
No, I didn't think you could.
Yeah.
I don't believe so.
Well, but I mean, that's what the
This would allow, I guess.
the duplex at Moderator Way, right? That's a condo. So whoever buys that is entering into some condo agreement.
Right.
But that's a condo agreement already established. It's not an accessory apartment.
So I guess
Through a
what
special
Brian
permit.
is, I guess what they're saying is it doesn't have to be the same owner. It could be, instead of the person just renting it out, the person could buy it and then they enter into an agreement. I don't know.
I mean, it seemed far-fetched to me. I don't know who's realistically going to do that, but
Right.
I mean, bottom line, I think Brian's point is we really kind of need to remove it just based off of what he's saying. And Mark, I think this is what you were saying, is that there's, the judicial court invalidated a zoning ordinance that restricted the conversion of apartment units to condominiums. So I don't think this could be, flagged if we left it in.
Right, just disprove it, right? So.
And really, we're not talking about, 10, cottage style units popping up.
Yeah, no, this is one accessory. It would be one
Yeah.
accessory. Yeah. So I don't think it's an issue.
So even if it happened, it's, you wouldn't really notice a difference from it being an apartment.
Yeah. So I would say I think we need to delete that based off of Brian's comments.
Yeah.
And then his next one, see comment above concerning size restrictions and the quantum, the vote at town meeting, the gross heated floor space limit.
That's again back to the same concern with the economic development bill that was passed.
That it should, what should it be revised to?
Just saying that has to go with the numbers. If we wanted to go with the 50%, the majority vote versus the 2/3 vote, it just have to coincide with the other change.
Okay, so since we're not changing that, then we shouldn't change this. Is that
correct?
Right. And I believe that was the final comment. So it looks like we're going to keep the size requirements the same and then just take out the reference to condominium ownership.
Yep, I think that sounds good.
All right.
And if it doesn't pass, we know we need to modify.
You know where the
it.
problem is. Yep. Okay, and I will look for the that fact sheet that Erica had created.
Yeah, she
Make
did. She
sure that-
did them, I think, for all three of them. So that we try to, those are one really helpful during town meeting, but even to, I think she would occasionally look to publish those ahead of time so that people would kind of be aware of the articles we're presenting. So if they've got questions, they could bring them to us ahead of time.
Our bylaw is not very easy to read.
Okay, great.
All right, so so we're pretty much good with the temporary sign bylaw and the proposed outdoor lighting bylaw. And then I'm looking at the agenda. Yep, so the Houghton Farm Road acceptance, we've already voted on. So I don't think there's anything, is there anything more to do on that? Or
I thought we were waiting to hear back from the engineer to make sure that they'd gone through everything.
I thought we did that the last meeting. Niche reviewed the as-built, they submitted all their comments. We went through all their comments with Erica and we made a motion to approve.
I think that this was I think this remained on the agenda for whatever reason, just with the transition between Erica and myself. But tonight, Greg Roy is here just to talk a little bit about the marking the boundaries of the road itself, which is related to road acceptance.
With your permission, Mr. Chair, Madam Chair. Sorry.
That's okay.
It's been a long day. I
I
know
hear
that
ya.
for all
I
of you
hear ya.
too. Holy
It's
smokes.
been called worse.
Yeah, so I think your statement is correct. I think that Niche basically issued from an engineering standpoint, a clean letter in that no further action was required on the as-built plan or the street acceptance plan. There is a punch list of items that that we are working on, some seeding, to clean up stuff like that. One of the things in that punch list item, one of the only things that is left for my office to take care of is to set a few remaining bounds that I think were either removed or for whatever reason not able to be set. And I wanted to discuss two of those tonight, if it was okay with the board. We've been out to do that work. We're beginning to do that to clean this up. There are two locations that I wanted to talk with you with the planning board about, because it may make sense to either just leave the bound off or try to set something else in place of the bound. The first one, so I marked up the street acceptance plan, and I think you can see it on the screen there. The first one, which is just below the word match and match line, that bound is right in the middle. That's the section of road that adjoins the open space that was deeded to the town. And as part of the development, we proposed a gravel parking area right in that location for the trailhead access. So that's right in the area where the trail goes up into the open space where the trailhead sign is. And that bound would be right in the middle of the parking area. So we can certainly install it and we can set it flush and we can, do whatever it takes to kind of make that work for now. But I just wonder over time if it's a gravel parking area and, I just raised that to the attention of the board. It may not make the most sense to set that particular bound. The second one is right at the location of the crossing, the wetland crossing. And it's a little difficult to explain, but if you can remember, you might not remember, but that wetland crossing is a span, an arch span. It's about 10 feet wide by about 6 feet high, and it's put on concrete footings that kind of run perpendicular to the road. For the footings, we put the arch culvert and then we filled the road over it. then we put a retaining wall on both sides of the roadway to retain the road grades. Well, the bound is a foot or two off the edge and at about the same elevation as that footing, as that concrete footing. And would be very difficult to install it. There's also a thread line of a small little intermittent stream that comes down there that would be impact, we'd have to almost put it like right in the middle of that thread line. So in that case, it's almost practically very difficult to set it. We could set something else there, like an iron rod or something like that, that's not quite as permanent, but would certainly be, it's certainly common for property markers. All the rest of the bounds in the subdivision are set or will be set shortly. From a surveying standpoint, tying in standpoint, there's several magnitudes of bounds more than what you would need to tie into that road from a survey standpoint. So it's really not needed from a surveying standpoint. And I think even from a physical location standpoint, from the town's perspective, the bound on the opposite side of the street is set. So if you ever really needed to know where that side is, you could tape over 40 feet, or I think it's a 40-foot right of way from the other bound, and you could get to that property line pretty easily. So I raised that. I had the opportunity. I saw that we were on the agenda, and I thought I'd just stick around to give you a little status update that all those punch list items are being worked on, including this issue. And I just wanted to maybe get some input from the planning board on those two bound locations.
No, thank you. I appreciate the update. That's always good to hear. The punch list items are being addressed. With regard to the bound that's very close to the culvert, I mean, it clearly doesn't make sense to put that in. If the iron rod makes sense, but you think it's more of a temporary thing, I don't know. I guess, I always think of the bounds as being more permanent. So in both of these instances where you have a gravel parking lot and this culvert, I would think it probably makes sense just not to install them at all. Like you mentioned, there are multiple bounds throughout this entire area that you would be able to still locate stuff with. And the fact that there's one on the immediate adjacent side, I would be okay with not requiring those, but I don't know if others have comments or thoughts.
I agree with Danielle on that.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask where there were other ones in that area to reference against, and if they're right across the street, then
yeah, 40 feet.
yeah.
I'm
okay removing those too.
Yep, I'm fine with that. I mean, these are just to establish property lines. Is that?
Just
That's
yeah,
all
so
these
just in
for.
the future, someone
Yeah.
kind of wants to be able to kind of go out.
Yep.
So Valerie, I'm assuming we'd want to make a motion, excuse me, just to have it on record. So does anyone want to entertain a motion to allow the removal of these two bounds to be installed?
How are we referencing these two bounds? Do they have numbers?
Is this a plan, Greg, is this a plan that you submitted that we can kind of?
Yeah, it's going to be difficult to reference them because they're not identified in any unique way. But I think what I will tell you is we will redate this. We will give you an updated plan.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, if you want to just give us some sort of plan that we can date, even this is fine, just with today's date on it. So that way we can know, the two bounds circled on this plan, dated today, and just resend this with a, red date on it. I think that's probably the best way to reference it.
Yeah,
Sure.
that, or are there station numbers or something we can reference against?
No.
No.
There would be, but not on this plan. I'd have to go
Okay.
into my, I'd have to cross-reference the plans. You could just generally refer to the bound. I think you could do it by saying the bound that's located within the gravel parking area. There's only one of them. And the bound that's located on the
On the culvert.
On the culvert, on the northerly, call it the northwest side of the culvert.
Okay,
I'll make a motion to not require the 2 bounds on the Houghton Farm Road. One within the gravel parking area and the second on the northwest culvert.
is there a second?
A second.
And then Val, if you wouldn't mind just doing a roll call for all those in favor?
Well, it's a roll call for however we're voting, but yeah.
All right, Mark,
Yes.
Michael,
Aye.
Danielle,
Aye. Sorry, I think your sound went out again, Valerie, sorry.
Jim,
Yes.
Eric,
Yes.
and Pete.
Great, that was approved unanimously.
Hey,
Okay,
Valerie,
thanks.
just for your notes, Jim is the associate, so when there's fired, sorry, Jim, you have to skip over him.
Yeah, sorry.
No worries,
Only special
no worries.
permits. Thank you. Thanks, Eric.
Thanks, everybody. I appreciate it. Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening,
Greg,
everybody.
You
Thanks,
too.
have a good night.
All
Should
right, so
we-
let's, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I do have one question. I'm just wondering if we should go back and take a vote on those final town meeting articles, or if that is something that we should put on a future agenda.
We can take a vote for the amended accessory apartment bylaw. I think the other two are covered with our votes.
Yeah, we didn't
Yeah.
change the other ones.
Yeah, but if you're right, we probably do want to approve the
think so.
amended accessory bylaw.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, I missed that.
That's okay.
No problem.
Someone want to afford a motion to approve the amended accessory apartment bylaw?
Which one are we taking out? Can we just phrase it like that?
It was,
Or
Taking
if you
out
could bring it-
reference to condominium ownership.
you know which line item it was?
Yeah, if
yes,
you
it's
could
like-
bring up that doc.
Yes,
It was B, letter B or something. I forget the number.
Which
it was
subsection? is
letter
it?
8. It was 8B.
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 I will make a motion to remove 8B regarding condominium ownership from the accessory apartment bylaw.
Second.
All those in favor?
Needs to be roll call, doesn't it?
Roll call, roll
Yeah.
call.
Mark,
Yes.
Michael,
Aye.
Danielle,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
and Pete.
Great. All right, pass.
Sorry,
unanimous.
Jim. All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Now we need to vote to approve the housing production plan.
I don't have it pulled up here, but the date of it was March 1st, 2021. Erica did send it in, of course, to DHCD, but they've just gotten back to me and let me know that aside from the Board of Selectmen vote to approve, we also need to follow that up with a planning board vote.
Okay, so it's just a standard procedure.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
Does anyone want to make a motion to approve the housing production plan? I guess would it be dated March 2020?
March
Sorry.
1st, yes.
March 1st, 2020.
March 1st. I'll make a motion to approve the housing production plan dated March 1st, 2021.
Second.
And then a roll call for all those in favor? Oh, we can't get your volume for some reason.
Mark?
Oh, there we go.
Yes.
Okay. Michael?
Aye.
Was that me?
Sorry.
That's okay.
Yes,
Aye.
Danielle.
Yep, okay.
Yeah.
Eric?
Oh, sorry. Aye.
Pete?
All right, passed unanimously. And then I think the meeting minutes, we still don't have from Erica, correct? So we'll just push those off to the next meeting.
Yes, yeah.
All right. Well, great work, Valerie. Welcome for your first planning board meeting. Hope it went okay.
Yes, yes, thank you. It'll be good to meet you all in person someday soon.
We hope so.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Motion
Valerie.
to adjourn.
Give a
Second.
second. All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. Have a good night, everyone.
Aye.
Thank you all. Nice to meet you.
Bye. You too.
Good night.